So, shall we start? Tell me, Viraj, now how many cases have we done for this course which I have been taking?
Say exact number, over 6.
6. That is only mine or including the other instructor?
So including the examination case also.
Including the examination case, but also including Dr. Jitu Singh's?
No, sir. No, sir.
How many cases did he take?
He didn't take any of the cases. He was supposed to take 3 cases.
Okay.
One of them was marginally discussed because he was running out of time most of the days.
Okay, all right. So, let us say about 6, 7 cases. What is the case which impressed you most? Impressed means you remember it out of all.
Sir, I think I remember most of the cases.
What touched you most deeply? Because they are all cases about leadership.
Yes, sir. I think from Siddhi to Sindhi, the other is touched me.
From Shindi to Shirdi
Yes.
or Siddhi.
Siddhi.
Why? Why did it touch you most?
Because he could have easily foregone the responsibility. In all the cases, people were given, they were there on a particular job. And they,
You mean they were nominated or rose to a position?
they were allocated some responsibilities which they performed very well.
Francis, I asked a question. How many cases have you done in this course? So, Viraj said about 6 cases and Dr. Jitu Singh discussed 1 case. So, roughly about 6. So, I said out of all these cases, which is the case which impressed you most or touched you most deeply? So, he said from Shindi to Siddhi. So, I asked why did it touch you most? So, he is telling me that now. And what he started by saying, what touched him is the voluntariness of Anna Hazare. He didn't have to, he had retired, he came back to his village, he didn't have to take on the role, he took on the mantle of a leader. Whereas in the other cases, he feels the others did not take on in the sense that they were in a process where they strove and they became a leader. Is that what you are saying, Viraj? I want some responses now from the class. Before we get responses, we have some late latifs. So, Francis, will you now summarize what I just did for you? One good turn deserves another, they say.
We're discussing the number of cases that we have gone through in this course, including those solved by Dr. Singh, and which is from the cases, which is the type of leadership, or which is the case which struck us the most. So, it was just mainly on what Viraj said as being the case of from Siddhi to Sindhi, about Anna Hazare.
Shindi to Siddhi. Then I asked him why. And then what did he say? Could you understand what he said? It's an important point he made. Tell them, Viraj, you tell them, why that touched you the most, Anna Hazare, as a leader.
The voluntariness of his.
Voluntariness. He didn't have to do it, but he took on that responsibility. So, that aspect of leadership, all right, that touched him. Okay. Any comments on that?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, Ashutosh.
Sir, it is very, in my view, it is very easy to do the work and recognize yourself that you have done the work. You will get the feeling that you have done something. So, Anna Hazare did the work and he was recognized that he did the work and he communicated it and ultimately become the leader and influential person in the village. Means he did a lot of things like, for example, the liquor shop. This is a bad example, but which was not closing from his advice. Then he brings some youth and get it closed. While in the case
He
of
used
this,
force, coercion.
yes, while in this case, the person.
No, I am not asking this case. My question was, out of all these,
Right.
all right, which has touched you the most?
No.
So, has this?
Yes, Yes, sir.
Self-regulation,
Yes, sir.
that has touched you most?
Yes, sir.
About Mr. Ravi Mathai?
Yes.
Okay, tell me why.
So it is very tough for a head of an organization to see that everything is being done and I do not have any power. I do not have any holding. It is very easy as far as Indian society is concerned that I am a leader and I have a lot of authority and everything passes through me. But what
So-
he has did, he has developed the organization such that everyone.
You mean he relinquished his power and empowered other people
Right.
under him? So that very act
Yes,
of relinquishment is what has touched you?
right.
That here is one individual, all of us we have learned we seek power, okay, and there are various theories about power. But here is an individual who had power and he chose voluntarily to give up power, right?
Exactly.
In fact, the interviewer, Dr. Uday Parikh, says at one stage that it's very intriguing, all right, that you are giving up power, because power is normally used to influence others. Of course, he made a slightly different point, Dr. Parikh. He says, you are influencing without power. By giving up power, you are exerting an influence. Whereas we have all been taught, we all learned that power is really the authority. When you have given, authority gives you the power and you exercise that power by influencing people to bend to your will. What you want them to do, you make them do. But here was another intriguing case. So that has touched Ashutosh the most. He says this is an individual, a leader with a difference. He has exhibited leadership by giving up power, all right, transmitting the power to people under him. Now let me ask you, why did he do that? What was his powerful motivation to give up power? Remember, he didn't give up responsibility, don't tell me that, because giving up responsibility by giving up your power is like running away. He chose to accept the post when he was invited by the board to become director of IIM Ahmedabad. So he has given up power not because he is running away, not because he is shying away from responsibility, but for some other very powerful reason, internal. What is it? Let Avnish say.
There could be two reasons for it. In the case he mentioned that he doesn't have any experience of managing a management institute. So maybe, and the other person are very well educated and then they are been in this profession for very long.
Which profession?
In teaching profession.
Teaching. Now is there a difference between teaching and managing an educational institution of higher learning?
Yes, sir.
There is, all right.
So probably
So nobody probably had much experience in a green field. I am calling it green field, like you call a green field factory you build. Here was a green field educational institution of higher learning. I would suspect that none of the professors there, the faculty, had that experience also. Yes?
Giving up power means he is trying to develop the same quality of what he has got in other people also. See, the faculty also.
My
now
question is very pointed. What was his powerful motivation to give up power? Let him first answer. Yeah. Yeah?
to develop a self-regulatory culture among the people.
To develop. Why? Yes, yes, but why? Same. Why? Why did he? Why was the motivation to develop?
If he is not there, the process of managing a very good institute should go further, go beyond him, and that process should not stop when he leaves the institute. That has to be institutionalized, and if there were initial hiccups, initial problems, but when all these problems were sorted out,
So,
had a growth
what
like
would
a-
you paraphrase it by saying? His powerful motivation was
institutional.
So
In-
looking beyond.
he took a
institution,
responsibility
himself.
to build an institution, right? His motivation was very powerful to build the institution so that it will endure. What is the meaning of endure? After you are not there, Okay, it will not only remain, but it will keep on growing and prospering. That was a powerful motivation.
Sir, there could be another reason.
Yes,
Sir, because all of the professors there, they were highly educated.
right.
And they might have some ego factor in them. So if you dictate your terms to
They
them,
have all ego factor,
if
blown up ego
if
factors,
you dictate
Yeah.
terms to them, they might not be in line with you.
right?
There will be conflict among them. So as a whole, the institution wouldn't develop. So that's why giving them power is
Okay, so Avnish has got another view. He says it wasn't that powerful intrinsic motivation to build the institution. It may have been that, but something else. May have been a very clever tactics of handling highly educated, highly egoistic faculty who otherwise he would not be able to manage. So this was a clever ploy and a tactics to do it. How many agree with this?
No, sir.
I do
No,
not,
sir.
sir. I beg
Sir,
to
the
differ.
thing
One moment. How many disagree? Tell me. That's Preet, no? Tell me.
I think
Why do you disagree?
I disagree because he says that he walks into industry with the ignorance.
Walks into
He's come there like
from industry,
he says that
he is ignorant of the educational institution.
Right, sir.
Right.
The place where he's come, he's ignorant of how to manage systems there. So I
Yes.
think, sir, this was the and
That was the reason
that
he
was the
gave
reason.
to Dr.
And,
Parikh.
the author asks.
What was the success?
The author
factor?
asks him again and again that, so to delegate this kind of power, you need a lot of self-security. That if I delegate systems to two down low, I have the self-security that nothing will go wrong. Because most of the
That's why you disagree.
no, sir, but this case doesn't talk about that. What is the reason for that? In fact, Mr. Uday Parekh asks twice, what is the, where do you develop the seed for this self-security in your childhood? Or I don't think so. He's elaborate. Instead, he starts talking of his weaknesses.
Yes.
Sir,
So what are you coming to the view, of all the cases that you have learned, this case is talking about a leadership with a difference, is it not? We have seen Rai Bahadur, Mohan Singh Oberoi, great leader, built a great institution. We have seen Mr. S.R. Talwar, no? R.K. Talwar, built a great institution. Anna Hazare, he also did great bit of leadership he exhibited, all right? And now we are seeing Luther, not to forget Luther. And now we are seeing Ravi Mathai, who's gone down in the annals of at least Indian institutions as one of the greatest institution builders, Okay, very great institution builders we have had also. There was a very great man who built BHU, isn't it? But he has gone down in modern times as a great institution builder, and he is a leader with a difference. So that is why I thought, let me see what are your perceptions. Krishna, what do you agree with or disagree?
I agree with Avnish.
Ah,
This is an educational institution.
okay.
Here you have a lot of people who have done very well in their respective fields, educationally. That is, they are prominent people. Now, if you try to dictate terms with them, that is not the right way of dealing with such people. I mean, that
Means
is,
he could not build the great institution.
yes,
He couldn't, if he took autocratic style,
it
Of
might
something.
not have been possible.
might not have been possible.
So probably he did have this in mind, and I think that was the reason why he adopted. One of the prominent reasons why he would.
But mind you, he didn't have to be autocratic. He could well have been bureaucratic. Why? Because this was set up by Government of India, was it not? And it is accepted as legitimate by all within an institution, which is government. That government has bureaucratic rules, regulations, acts. In fact, somewhere in the case, he did say, no, Ravi Mathai, that there was constant pressure in the beginning from the board, the central government, state government, to say, I say, where are your regulations, Like IIT, we have a regulation, it's a thick book like this. We have an act, we have rules, we have procedures. So he could well have done it in the normal course, without being autocratic. Am I right?
If this were the reason, sir, then the decisions which were not taken by
But he chose, in fact, to oppose that. Did he not do that? He told the government, I think it took a little bit of courage to tell government, look, don't bug us. We don't require, we are doing another experiment. And what is further more surprising, I mean, he had great selling skills, I think. He convinced the government. And later on, after 3-4 years, he says, that pressure stopped, they understood and gave them the autonomy. Someone was saying something? Yeah.
Another point that
No, let me ask Devash first, then you come.
So as far as I can see from this case is, he believed that in order to get accountability out of the people, I need to give them responsibility. He wanted them.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So he gave up responsibility from the power from him side, give that power to the individual. So
Wait a minute, this is where I draw, I knew you were coming to that, I draw the whistle. Because in fact he didn't do that. He gave responsibility without the authority or power. In the beginning, many complaints came saying, sir, how can we do it? You are asking us to do this responsibility, you haven't given us the power and authority, right? It was very novel, yes? Asif, let Asif, yeah, you tell me.
That's how he was trying to build up a culture in which people were given responsibility without being given power, and he was telling them, motivating them to persuade their co-professors to achieve a common goal without giving them power.
Yeah,
So this is
I
the
think
kind of positive culture towards which he was.
he did have a method in his madness. What was he trying to do? Self-regulation. Remember when Dr. Parekh asked him, what do you think is the single greatest factor, of having built this organization? He said self-regulation, which rests on the foundation of self-discipline. Self-regulation rests on self-discipline. And he gives an example. Can you give me an example? A very classical example, what happens? No, the faculty, their self-regulation, how much time to give for the PGP, the core program, and how much time to give for their own earning incentive for consulting, isn't that so? So if you give too much time to consulting, then you may miss classes, your teaching suffers. Now he didn't make a rule there, he expected that this kind of self-discipline based self-regulation was developed. He did another thing, he created large numbers of committees, task forces. Remember, it says so in the case. Why? Because he says there is a reason that encourages people to try and make norms, okay, of discipline themselves instead of it coming from the top as a directive. And once you make it yourself, how is it maintained? Through peer pressure. So although he pleaded ignorance, I think he had great foresight and great sensitivity about people, no? He understood people and how to manage people. In the beginning, when he had faculty meetings, what was the situation in the faculty meetings? Very often quarrels broke out, right? And the main issue, substantive issue was sidelined. People attacked each other instead of looking at the issues. Decision was left. Often in the early years what happened, when committees could not take a decision, they kicked it upstairs, and what did he do? He kicked it back again. How does he justify doing this? Because someone may take a stance saying the director was abdicating his duty. His duty was to give decisions. How would you justify this charge? He himself says so. He says if he had not done this, he would have lost two things. One is giving autonomy, giving self-confidence, all right, and building self-discipline and self-regulation within the faculty, so that they could govern most of the operating problems themselves without coming to director. And the spin-off of that is he would have more time to do his Dhobi book planning, as he calls it. In all the textbooks you will read, no, the CEO is supposed to do a lot of strategic thinking, which means long range, set directions, plan for change. Now, if he is tied up every day in day-to-day operational matters, has he got the time to do that? He doesn't have. So, that is a spin-off. Right? You wanted to say something, Paula, tell me.
One of the chief reasons why he sought to develop this sort of open culture within Ahmedabad was that, apart of course from this self-regulation and self-motivation, the reason was that it was an educational institution. It was supposed to be a center of educational excellence. So for advancement of learning and for better research, one has to have an open culture where there is flexibility and not the rigidity of a bureaucracy. So that was one of the chief reasons why he sought to develop an open culture within Ahmedabad. Primarily because it was an educational institution.
So, it was a planned strategy, essentially, to accomplish the mission, right? What I felt during this case, that his personal mission was to build an enduring institution. It says so in the case. That was always his most important motivating factor. So, any action which led to this outcome, he spent all his time and efforts on doing just that. So, having said that, here is a little framework which I tried to extract from this case. All right, this case. You can try and do this for other cases too, but this framework says there is a process and there is an outcome. It is a framework for institutional building. So, first he tried to bring autonomy of the institution, and the autonomy of the institution was really a shield to guard against external influences, number one. Number two, can someone tell me what else was the purpose of the autonomy? One is obviously as a shield, as a barrier or a buffer from external forces outside the institution. Autonomy means you are empowered, you don't have to go running to anyone to get decisions. You can decide on your own, that is the meaning of autonomy. So, it shields you from the need to run back and forth, go to Delhi, seek approvals all the time. What else? What else? Sense of ownership, discipline. Huh? Autonomy. Why? So, we say it is a shield from external influences. What else you said?
Responsibility for taking any job means I cannot ask that somebody.
Autonomy gives you responsibility.
Yes.
Okay. Does it give anything else? Self-discipline. If I give you autonomy, all right, will it engender self-discipline? Yes or no? May or may not. How should I give autonomy?
It gives an independence to the institution to chalk its own course.
Autonomy must go hand in hand with, you're right, it's how you give it. Autonomy must go hand in hand with what? Responsibility? Huh? Accountability?
So it also gives a sense of belongingness.
Accountability. Say I give you autonomy in your learning process. The lectures will be held, professors will come, they will give lectures. You may or may not attend lectures. Library will be kept open, books will be provided. You may or may not read the books, all right. If you want, you can have group discussions with any other professors of the institute, not necessarily our department. Or if you want, computers are provided, okay. We have databases provided to you, you can do learning from there. I give all this autonomy, no timetable, all right, which you have to attend. Professors will come, give lectures to empty classes. Those who are interested, you have the autonomy. If I just give that, what is likely to happen? Without accountability, likely outcome is learning process may not occur. But on the other hand, it may also occur. That's exactly what analogy what Ravi Mathai was trying to do, is it not? Could it not have happened that professors, they spend most of the time in doing consulting, earning a lot of money, and students didn't get the benefit of their instruction? Could have happened? Didn't happen. So there must have been some accountability, which is not mentioned in the case. Is it mentioned? Accountability? Were there appraisals? The analogy I am giving you, what could be the accountability for you if I gave you this open system of learning? After all, there are such systems. What is distance education? Is it not giving a lot of autonomy to people? Huh? Evaluation.
Even for a PhD course, for example.
PhD also, as you go higher. Evaluation. So there has to be within the framework some process by which some evaluation. PhD program also, there is a lot of autonomy, but there is some framework of evaluation. Okay. So, autonomy of the institution. Next, I think strongly it comes through, was he not trying with this autonomy, under the umbrella of the autonomy that he had for the institution, he was trying to pass on this autonomy to smaller groups, autonomous groups, in terms of committees, task forces. It mentions that finally after a few years, the PGP program, the powers were automatically passed to the PGP chairman, basically to run the program. There was a committee. Every faculty member had something to do with the main PGP program. So the PGP program committee comprised of practically all the professors. And slowly they developed the norms, they vested the chairman of that committee, whoever he was from time to time, with powers to take routine operational decisions, so that it wouldn't come back to the committee all the time. So culture, in culture, relationships, which was encouraged to grow, professional kind of relationships. What does that mean? Professional. What is the relationship between faculty? What does professional mean? Is based on what? Based on mutual respect, right? You have a faculty from economics, and if you have a faculty from, let's say, IT. So professionalism means what? There is a mutual respect for each other's expertise. Peer group, culture of peer groups. What does it mean? That means peer groups are used to exert a lot of influence on people within the group to adhere to whatever the norms which has been developed by the group itself. That is the kind of culture he was building up. Non-hierarchical, there is enough evidence to show that the hierarchy, all right, which is inherent in a bureaucratic system, and by law it is a central government institution, it could have a bureaucratic system, and the hierarchy he was trying to dispel by having a culture which was non-hierarchical. Competitive creativity, what is this? This was also being built into the culture. Competitive creativity. Pardon me? Academic entrepreneurship, that is a phrase which we find in the case. So, what is it trying to convey? Pursuit of excellence, and creative competitiveness means what? You are competing. Whom are you competing against? Huh?
Giving them autonomy, responsibilities.
Are you competing against your peers, say two faculty in the same department, competing with each other, or you are competing with yourself? Isn't there such a thing as competing with yourself also, to see how well you are progressing, how well you are doing?
Competing with the best in the class, best in the world.
Best in the world, yes. After all, there are situations, is it not? You can give an analogy of some games or sports. Can you think of any game or sports where you compete against yourself? Huh? Who?
He bettered his record for 32 times.
So weightlifting, shot
Pole
put,
vaulter.
weightlifting, shot put, all competing.
These are all you compete with yourself.
Squash.
Golf, squash, can you play with yourself? But certainly you can better records if you are an athlete, in running. You compete with others, but you can compete. Golf, you can try and reduce your handicap. You can take a 18-hole round in a golf course. If your handicap is 20, try and reduce it to 18, and so on. You can compete. So, competitive creativity. My interpretation of this is mainly competing with yourself also, and not the run of the mill competition where you compete with other people and you have a win-lose kind of a outcome. The creativity of this is what? I feel because you are competing with yourself, the faculty, and in the process if you are improving, then you are bringing in institutional excellence, because the aggregate of that is bringing in institutional excellence. Multi-roles. Was he trying to foster multi-roles by involving people in various committees? The key word here is involvement. If you have autonomy from outside sources, you try and build autonomy inside, and the autonomy you build in order to have a situation where it is not a individual leader centered. In other words, if the director goes on sabbatical even for 6 months, the institution keeps running. But imagine a situation where routine matters are coming to the director. What will happen? The files will pile up, vouchers will not be signed, people will not get cash. So, multi-roles is an excellent way of getting involvement of people first, so that whatever decisions are the outcome of the society, the committees, there is the ownership of each member in it, that he was part of it. Also, multi-roles gives you the autonomy of the group, which then starts functioning on its own without things going to the top all the time and becoming bottlenecks. And self-regulation, this is the very foundation, self-discipline based self-regulation. Apart from culture, which to my mind was the most important ingredient, his greatest achievement was to be able to build this culture, was structure, matrix type. Now, that had to follow if you are trying to build this culture, isn't it? Otherwise, it will be a contradiction in terms. Had to have a matrix structure and self-reliance. Self-reliance in what sense? In the sense of autonomy, but I suspect even in the sense of financial self-reliance, because I think he tried to build a very strong income earning stream, revenue stream for the institute. There are a number of innovative practices which he brought in also. Okay. In India at the time when I am introduced this, it was a very innovative practice that faculty members could consult and pay a small percentage of their consulting to the institute and keep the rest himself. Now, IITs have the same system. I am not very sure myself where it originated, whether in the ministry or it originated IIM or in IIT, but someone would have been a source. I think it's very innovative. It is there in America also. Okay. Now, outcome is internal strength was generated and self-renewing process, which is the final outcome, institution building, the very essence of institution building. You can leave behind an institution which renews itself. Why? Renewing itself is very important, because again we say environment keeps on changing. Therefore, if you have a self-regulating mechanism where the institution has self-renewal, so it is like a closed loop feedback with correction, isn't it? As the environment changes, the people who are empowered, who are autonomous, they will change to keep abreast with the changes in the environment and continue to do well and prosper. Now, I had promised, see, I don't want to deprive you of this, I had promised in the email that each of you should read the case and prepare yourself to make a class presentation, if called upon by me to do so. Okay. And for that you wanted 1 hour extra time for preparation, which I also gave. So, I have done my part of it. No, I have shown you something for nearly 40 minutes about my interpretation. Has anyone learnt anything from this case so far? Good. Now, I would like to learn something which we have not talked about. So, I will call upon any volunteer to come and add something to this. I am not being facetious. Okay. I may have missed out some aspects of this case. It has impressed me also quite a lot. He was a very charming man, you know. I met him, he was much older than me. I met him on 3 or 4 occasions, and then when I attended this executive development program, the first program I attended was in 1967. In fact, that was the first executive development program which IIM Ahmedabad had introduced. They didn't have the infrastructure, so they used to hold it in a hotel. This was held, it was a 4 weeks program called PYE, Program for Young Executives. And then L&T, that is the first time they sent anyone to attend any external program. It was a small company. 6 of us were sent. So, I was one of the 6. And now I think only 1 remains. All the others have left L&T. The man who remains is now the managing director, Anil Naik. So, at that time Ravi Mathai, he taught us the marketing course. So, we had some interaction with him, and this was in Hotel Sea Lord in Ernakulam. So, since the faculty were also staying there, we could socially mix with them. So, he was an extremely charming and sensitive person. So, obviously, his man management skills were par excellence. So, now who will volunteer? Which intrepid soul? Yes, Viraj, did you raise your hand? Yes. Come, come. একটু ক্যামেরাটা ফোকাস করতে হবে। You have to stand here. মাইক আছে? হয়ে যাবে? আচ্ছা, come. All right, Viraj, what would you like to discuss? If you want a pointer, I have some questions here, if you want to, but otherwise you are on your own. This was my question particularly. Cast a glance at it, say something. I said, how would you describe the leadership skills of Ravi Mathai? Add something which we haven't. What best describes Ravi Mathai's managerial style vis-a-vis any of the accepted theories of leadership styles research? We touched upon a number of theories of leadership style, Ashutosh. Huh? You remember, no? You have to learn it now. Exams are coming. So, how do you fit in his style here? First you say your bit, then spend few minutes here. How much time do you want? I can give you about 6-7 minutes. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Start.
The whole case can be summarized in 2 lines in page number 292, where Mr. Mathai says that unless the individual gains some understanding of how to use his freedom and some degree of self-confidence in his own individual functioning, his functioning in a group becomes less effective. So, in the whole process of institution building, what Mathai provided to all the other faculty members, teachers in the institution was the same: freedom and some degree, and an opportunity to develop some degree of self-confidence. Again,
you know, don't mind if I intersperse some comments in between. There is a view that most of us, we are afraid of freedom. There was a book written, I forget the author now, which was a very powerful book. It was entitled Fear of Freedom. And this is a kind of dichotomous situation. All of us think we like to be free, but when you are absolutely free, we are afraid. We want some sort of umbrella, some sort of framework, some reference points, you know, emotional, mental, intellectual points within which we would like to operate. Otherwise, we feel very insecure and frightened. So, think about it.
and again he stresses that to build an institution, building of people, their relationships, attitudes and behavioral norms gave a big impetus on the growth of the institution. And one more interesting quote that I would like to point out, it is really interesting since we are all in a management school trying to acquire knowledge, where he says that he had no formal education in management whatsoever, and a little bit of sarcasm involved that he never realized what occurred between the first and the last pages of any management textbook. So the fact that he came from an industry which might have been totally unrelated to his current responsibility, but his realization that it was people who can build an institution, irrespective of whether it is in the industry or in academy, and he could successfully replicate his success as a leader in this particular case also. So these are the few points I just wanted to point out.
He also said that he really had no knowledge, he had not read a book, barring the short period, 2 years that he was in IIM Calcutta and also at MIT.
So these are my just pointers I just wanted to stress on.
Okay.
Now, trying to answer this question is very difficult.
Why?
How to describe the leadership
Skills. One is people
how
related
to
skills.
relate,
People related skills.
yeah, Ravi Mathai's skills with the general theoretical theories of leadership that we are aware of. It is very difficult in the sense that if you are to refer to the managerial grid, then he probably was more people oriented because his realization from the industry and his application in the institute building was in such a way that he concentrated more on people. Not that he forewent the task part of it, but it is definitely true that it is definitely evident that his concentration on people were much more because he was concentrating on institution building. Now, theoretically, the successful leaders are always found on the first quadrant of the managerial grid, where people have an equal balance of task orientation and people orientation. I personally felt that he was more into, he probably could be well placed in the second quadrant, where he was more into people orientation than in task orientation. The degree of orientation could be well debatable.
Would anyone like to add anything? Yeah. Yes.
So I think there was a very important thing here. He was heading the Indian Institute of Management and Ahmedabad, which had to develop normative frameworks. So it is one thing to follow, that is, you have some normative frameworks already existing, and then you try to conform to those. But he was heading, he had an additional responsibility of doing that. Now, how can he do it? He had to have this kind of open culture where he cannot give tasks. He had to build those tasks from ideas that has to be generated by the people who were the best in the class with him. I mean, that aspect also has to be brought in.
Okay. Did he have any help at all? He had some help. There was a collaboration with the Harvard Business School. So they did have, like when most of these institutions were set up, like when IIT was set up, there was a collaboration with MIT. You had large numbers of professors who came. They helped in setting up the curriculum. Similarly with IIM Ahmedabad. They had from the Harvard Business School help. But then we have learnt about cross-cultural differences, right? So all that had to be made appropriate to our own conditions. Just couldn't take the package which came from there and use it, because our conditions were different. Yeah. So the point Krishna made is there was a motivation to form norms on their own. Well, partly true, but he did have help of seeing some of the great business schools of the world elsewhere, no? How they had developed, so he could learn something from them. Chances are that he may have borrowed a few ideas from there. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Adding to that, the question about the Dhobi group, the answer given by Mr. Mathai, he says that I have never divulged my targets to my people. So, so that they will be guided for that target, or they will have some prejudice about
biased.
Biased for that target. So this was one of his vision that which he was correctly able to identify, that if I have set a target, then people are not going to think beyond that time. And at the same time, he has planned that how he wants his institute to go in 4 and 5 or 20 years, from 5 to 20 years.
Privately he has done that.
Yes.
Although publicly and institutionally they did have 5-year plans, right? But he says those plans had a specific purpose. What does the case say? Purpose was basically to get government grants and so on. It was required to submit these plans to the government to get the grants. So they did it. But for the institution, the kind of futuristic, strategic and very long range planning, he did that privately. Okay? Okay? Right? Good? I want one more volunteer. Someone who doesn't know anything about leadership. Ignorance is, they say, bliss, but often ignorance is a very powerful tool also, no? to make you do the job.
So before that, I just
You come forward then. You volunteer. Why before that? Come and add your comments from here. Come. Just 2 minutes, because I want Srivats also to say a few words.
So
Yeah.
I would, as you said, whether we can put the entire, the style of leadership, of Ravi Mathai within a formal leadership style framework.
Right.
So I just try to do that. I think if we, look at Ravi Mathai's leadership style in terms of the various theories that we have studied in our earlier classes, we find that he was, number one, a theory Y type of leader in terms of Douglas McGregor's theory X and theory Y.
Okay.
He was the type of leader who loved to delegate and to instill motivation among his subordinates, and thereby, bring out a sense of devotion and confidence in his subordinates. Apart from that, I think we can also describe him as a charismatic and transformational leader with a long-term vision. Basically, when he was building an institution from scratch and he did not have any role model to follow, at least in the Indian context, we can definitely say that he was a transformational leader who sought to transform the entire educational scene in India by setting up and developing this management institute. Similarly, we have studied another theory, the substitute theory, where it was said that in certain situations we don't need a leader at all. So basically, by delegating responsibility among his subordinates, he sought to create a situation whereby decisions could be taken even without his presence.
A very important point, which was not added so far, the substitute theory, where there is no need for a director, basically. Okay, then?
Another theory we studied was the path goal theory of Robert House. So in that theory also they speak of a supportive type of leader. So I think whatever we have studied about Mathai really fits in with this type of supportive leadership. And the last one I would say was the Ohio and the Michigan studies, which we studied the Ohio and Michigan theories, where they spoke of the people-oriented leader who had a high degree of consideration instead of a high degree of initiating structure. So I think Ravi Mathai fits into this former category. He had a high degree of consideration for his people. So that is my interpretation in terms of the Ohio and Michigan studies.
Very good. Our community ache? Communitar. I think Srivats, you are saved by the bell. All right? You are prepared for the worst, but you are saved now. So anyway, now this is the last class on leadership. Hopefully we have been able to tell you something which has been interesting, and hopefully you have learned something, and we will see that in the evaluation. All right? The exams are round the corner, and best of luck. Okay? If you want to ask anything about this course, I am here. Next week I am not here, but anyone wants to consult?
Examination is concerned, will that be a formal case? Will that be a case study or some theory?
I can't say, because I have not made up my mind yet. But probably it may be a combination. It is a 3-hour exam, you see. It may be a combination of some theory, some case. What do you think it will be better?
Case studies.
Case study will be better, but not only one case. No,
We can have several cases.
it should be a rich mix. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you very much. I enjoyed teaching to this group. Thank you.